At gray light, we made bait in the San Diego Scripps Coastal State Marine Conservation Area. After paddling out of the conservation area and over the La Jolla Canyon in 780 feet of water, 100 feet below, I metered a thick band of bait, or maybe tuna. So I put out a medium-sized greenback, and after a short troll, my fly-lined fin bait was picked up. By the time I got the GoPro powered up, 3/4 of a spool of 50-pound braid was gone from my Metaloid lever drag reel. In order to get some line back, I used my rudder to point my kayak at the fleeing fish. I moved the lever to one click past strike, and then pulled and cranked my kayak to the big fish. After getting back most of my line and now directly over the fish, it was a stalemate. I could feel the fish shaking its head from side to side as if to say, no, I'm not coming up there. With that 20-pound fluorocarbon leader, you can't make me either. 8 minutes after the hookup, this fish sawed itself to freedom. When we looked at the leader, there was no curlicue, like when a knot fails. So I think it was a shark. Not a mako, or it would have cut the line with its razor-sharp teeth early in the first few minutes of the first run. It felt more like a thresher shark. The only thing I'm struggling with is that there was no line abrasion, like the kind sandpaper rough shark skin makes. Only just a clean break in the line, like the kind a large bluefin tuna makes, when it gets the line in the very corner of its powerful jaws. Now at the 3/4, we fish the lobster spots. Using the Komodo low-profile bait cast reel and shadow stalker rod, today we caught whitefish and sheephead. All of the bottom structure here looks good, so we made a lot of drops. When biting fish were finally found, we marked the spot with a waypoint. It amazes me how far you drift in a kayak after the hookup. Even when conditions are mild, like we experienced, I found we were moving away from the biting fish anywhere from between 50 and 100 yards. In my bait tank, my sardines had rolled. They never last long. That left me with 3 to 4 inch long greenbacks and lizardfish. I never blind troll with either of these two, because while they are great attractants while hot, they lack the stamina for a long soak. All morning long, I'd watch giant bird piles form and fade away, out on the northwest corner and back at the buoy line, and now finally one was forming up within paddling range. I quickly stowed the rockfish rig and got the trolling rod out. When we were within close proximity to the feeding frenzy, I hooked a hot mini-mack and trolled it into harm's way. Bait filled the water column below me, while gulls filled the sky above. As I watched my rod tip, I could see my mini-mack going crazy. I had set the lever drag just tight enough so that it could not take any line, but loose enough that a big fish could easily take out line. My troll bait got so excited that it started to take some line, but when I checked, it still felt like it was there. So I set the lever a little tighter and continued on. And then we were bit. Line was leaping from my reel. I pointed the rod at the fish, threw the lever, and watched as the line loaded while the fleeing fish set the hook. I could tell from the hook set, this fish was big and running full speed for deeper water. Remember, we were fishing the rocks that were covered with lobster pot buoys and ropes just moments before this all happened. So there was quite a minefield to get through before we were in the clear. So I dropped the rudder and used it to tack to the left and to the right of several buoy lines. From above, it must have looked like a water skier running a slalom course. Eventually we made it out of there, and the fish sounded in 90 to 100 feet of water. Now I put the extra heavy 8-foot long SCT boat rod on my knee, using it as a fulcrum point to pry up and short stroke in the big fish below. We'd get a few winds on the reel and the fish would run them back off. Because the fish had been line shy and the bait small, we were using 20-pound fluorocarbon leader and a number 2 J hook. So there was no other option but to take our time. By the time we gaffed the 25-pound yellowtail, it was so exhausted it didn't even move. I've titled this video, Better Lucky Than Good, a phrase I took from a business professor of mine. I have a lot of time on the water, fish with the very best rods and reels, use new line and tie strong knots. But this fish was a blessing sent down from heaven. Let me explain. After taking a closer look, it appears that the little number 2 J hook that was buried in my mini mack was then buried in the belly of a bonito. That in turn was buried in the belly of a much larger yellowtail. And for that hook to find its way into the corner of that big old mossback surely must have taken a little divine intervention. So I'm going to give credit where credit is due and leave it at that.